Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm super excited I get to share with you another Alpha Clash TCG spoiler. We're going to be talking about the upcoming set Genesis Returns, specifically the Clash Kit. I'm going to be showing you some Clash Kit exclusive contenders, as well as some Clash Kit exclusive cards, talk about the abilities, and just have some fun with it, and hopefully give you some insight on why I think this product's a really good start for you if you're new to the game. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoy your stay. If you're a long-staying supporter, thank you so much as always. We'll get right into it. So before I show you the cards, I always enjoy doing these, and Ridge has given me the privilege of spoiling a Clash Kit. I think this is the third time now out of the 4 main sets. And the reason I love spoiling the Clash Kit stuff is because I think that this is one of the best starter level products in trading card games. Now, anyone who watches my channel knows I love Alpha Clash TCG. They know that, you know, there's some bias in there, but genuinely, like objectively, it is one of the better starter level products in the market right now. Typically when you see starter decks, there's sometimes some problems. They're not like all bad. There are some good ones, but typically you either have, you know, weird ratios, or the cards aren't very powerful, or the decks aren't balanced if it's a 2-deck set, things like that, right? It all kind of boils down to you sometimes don't get the full experience of the game. Other card games I like that may not be named, even though they do have star level product, you don't get the full experience because the decks are so wonky at times. You don't really get to feel what it feels to play that game at a suitable level in order to, like, you know, really get that fun factor you're looking for. And I think one of the things that Alpha Clash does so well is give you that balance, give you cards that feel powerful, cards that are exclusive but not like too exclusive to where they're broken or to where they're, you know, it's going to create an issue in the market. Overall, just a really good out-of-the-box experience, right? We have the Clash Kit here on the left, as you can see, and then on the right we have the box art for Genesis Returns. And in this set we have 7 new contenders, 5 in the actual set itself, and then 2 in the Clash Kit, both Pestilence's new version of Pestilence and new version of War. The set releases on November 8th. Spoiler season started at the start of August, and it's going all the way up through October 3rd. It's kind of ending with this official Clash Ground event at the Miami TCG Con, October 5th and October 6th. There's some really cool stuff about it. There's a 2-sided contender, Shadowlight, which is really, really cool. And I think pre-orders are available now in like a multitude of regions, so definitely go check that out. They have $125,000 organized play season 1 prizing with a pro tour coming in December, so they're doing a lot of really cool stuff. But we're gonna get into the cards, get what you came here for, and kind of talk about these. And I do want this to be more open form and discussion, because anyone who watches my content knows, like, this is the type of stuff I like to do, is kind of breaks things down. So these are the 2 new contenders. We have Pestilence, Toxic Presence, and War, Fierce Javeliner. I'm going to show you each of these and talk about them, and then we'll go through their cards. We'll go through all the Clash Kit exclusive Pestilence cards, and then Clash Kit exclusive War cards, and then one additional spoiler at the end, so stay tuned for that. So first we have Pestilence, Toxic Presence. He is a 25 health contender, starts at 25 health, attacks for 1, defense for 0, a Harbinger type hero, and it says at 25 health, once per turn, during your primary phase, you may move any number of toxic counters from a permanent you control to a target Clash card. That includes your opponent's cards. It also says once per turn, whenever 2 or more toxic counters are put on a Clash card you don't control, the target player discards a card. So as you can see, similar to what Pestilence's abilities have been in the past, it's all about, you know, eliminating your opponent's card advantage, making them discard cards, making their stuff less powerful, and start to generate that advantage by just making their stuff weak and making their stuff go away, which is, you know, the epitome of a control deck. And that's the one thing, as you'll see as we talk about the abilities of these 2 contenders. You see Pestilence, which is a very controlling deck, a very kind of late game deck, and then you have War, which is really just trying to make a bunch of minions and just slap you in the face really quickly and kind of go wide and just hit you like an aggro deck. For Pestilence's 15 life ability, it says non-Pestilence Clash cards, so that's cards that don't have Pestilence in the name, you don't control with 1 or more toxic counters lose all abilities. This is really cool because War definitely has some static and powerful like add-on abilities that can really generate advantage. So Pestilence is able to stop that in the late game. And this is also just good in general in the meta as a whole. Pestilence hasn't been, other versions of Pestilence haven't been at the top of the meta, but certain packages of Pestilence have been. So it's going to be really cool to see, what adds in as time goes on. But like I said before, the one thing I like about these two is they kind of complement each other in terms of matchups. You have Pestilence, which is a late game control deck, and then you have War, which is like this early to mid game kind of go wide aggro deck that's just trying to burn you down, right? So you have War. Fierce Javeliner is also a 25 health contender. Harbinger has 1 attack, 0 defense, and its initial ability at 25 life says trigger attack. So whenever you attack with a contender, it says if this contender has a weapon attached with Javelin in its name, create a 1/1 red Harbinger War minion clash token. So you basically create a 1/1 minion, and you're able to attack with them and do other things and have add-on abilities for that. It also says once per turn, whenever you unattach a weapon from this contender, you may draw 1 card. So on one side, when we see Pestilence trying to get rid of card advantage, you have War trying to create card advantage, and such is the dichotomy of these two decks and being able to play them against each other. At 10 life, it says, at the start of your turn, if this contender has a weapon attached with Javelin in its name, War minion clash tokens you control get 1/1 until the end of turn. So, as you can see, they already start at 1/1. They can possibly be at 2/2 until the end of turn, which is really, really good. So, what I like about both of these is Pestilence has a toxic counter, and we'll talk about what those mean here in a second with some of the Clash Kit exclusive cards. But the one thing I like about the toxic counters is it's very similar to Mean Streak's old ability, where you're like managing this kind of interesting intrinsic value where at first it's not going to give you a whole lot, but eventually it's going to snowball and be able to add on other effects. And then you have War, which is just trying to burn them down and go crazy, right? So let's go over the Pestilence cards real fast. And again, these are exclusive to the Clash Kit. The first one we have is Pestilence Affliction Giver. This is a 3-drop Clash card. It's a 3/3, and it says trigger defeat Clash cards you don't control with toxic counters on them get -1/-1 until the end of turn. So if you can put Clash cards or toxic counters onto your opponent's Clash cards, and then this dies, you can weaken your opponent's cards until the end of the turn, which can be really good if you're going for like that kind of mid to late game swing turn and really generate a lot of value against your opponent in your clashes. So really, really solid card. 3/3 is on rate for a 3-drop, so it's really nice because normally with Pestilence's kit, at least from what I've played and remember, the static abilities are really powerful, but sometimes the attack and defense isn't, and that's the balance, right? Because he can make his opponent's attacks and defenses weaker, so it makes sense, but it's really nice to have a 3-drop that is on rate, right? Then we have Pestilence Harbinger of Desolation. This is the late game big drop that does a lot of really cool things. So it's a 5 mana, requires 2 green, and it's a 3/4, so it's a little bit below rate, not too bad. It's exclusive, and it says trigger enter. You may put 1 toxic counter on this card. Then for each permanent you control with a toxic counter, you may put 1 toxic counter on that permanent. So if this comes into play and you have 2 other Clash cards with toxic counters on them, you're able that you control, you're able to put 1 counter on this and then 1 counter on those 2, right? So you basically generate 3 counters, and that's even like a low amount. You probably want to even do more than that. Then it says Pestilence Clash cards you control with 1 or more toxic counters get trigger defeat. You may move any number of toxic counters from this card to target permanent. And that doesn't mean just one you control. It could be your opponent as well. So that's kind of I think the key ability with this card that is really good is because what I remember from playing Mean Streak a lot is you would build all these Mean Streak counters, and then sometimes you just lose them because your card dies and you had no way of moving them beforehand, and it got a little bit frustrating. Not in a bad way, like design way, just me as a player, because I'm trying to keep these counters. So it's really nice to have a card piece that allows you to keep those counters. And it being a late game piece, you've generated all these counters, you've worked to this point. This can help keep those on the field, right? It is exclusive, so only 1 can be on the field at a time, which makes complete sense. Otherwise, it would just be insanely broken. Its last ability says, during your primary phase, you may remove 5 toxic counters from this card. If you do, target Clash card gets -5, -5, and loses all card effects and abilities until the end of turn. So You want to drop this card in when you have 3 or 4 other Clash cards on the board with a toxic counter. You add toxic counters onto all of them and then one onto this one, so you essentially create anywhere from like 3 to 5 counters, and then you just start swinging. And when those cards die, you put all the counters, not all, but a good amount of the counters on this card to get it up to 5 to then get that last ability. So as you can see, this card has a lot of value that it can generate over time if you can keep it on the board, right? Then we have Pestilence Pandemic Warden. It is a 4-drop, requires 2 green. It's a 2/4, and it says whenever this card deals clash damage to a contender, that contender's controller discards a card. If a clash card is discarded this way, non-Harbinger clash cards get -2 until the end of turn. So you want to try to find a way to let this card hit the contender. Don't let them obstruct. Potentially they may it's the last attack in your chain, or maybe you have a way of, outside the clash kit, having a way of maybe giving this flight or giving this something different to where your opponent can't block it effectively and they have to use their contender to take the damage. So you can, again, make them discard a card. And when you combine this with Pestilence's static ability to make them discard a card, you can generate card advantage very, very quickly. So really, really cool addition here. Then we have Pestilence, the Virulent. I always have trouble saying that word. Virulent is a 1-drop 0/1 that basically allows you to get 2 toxic counters. And when it enters, you put a toxic counter on a target clash card, and when it gets defeated, you put a toxic counter on a target clash card. So basically, this is a chop blocker that gives you 2 counters early. If you can put 2 or 3 of these on the board really quickly, you can start to generate counters very, very fast and get that engine going. So it's just a nice addition. So those are the 4 cards. Again, those are exclusive to the Clash kit, which is really awesome. Then we have the War cards. So the first one, a lot of these are going to have Javelin in the name because War cares about weapons that have Javelin in the name. This is Fire Javelin. It's a 2 mana. It requires 1 red card to play. It's a contender weapon. It also costs 2 to attach. So this is going to cost you 4 total resources just to get fully in play. And it says attached contender gets 1/1. While this weapon is attached, your contender war minion clash tokens you control get trigger defeat, deal 1 damage to target clash card. So when this is attached, it immediately makes war a 2/1 contender, which is very, very powerful, right? It allows you to attack their contender head on and take no damage and give them a point of damage, which is really, really cool, or take even damage and get +1 value. So that's really nice, but it also makes your minions a lot more annoying, right? If you're creating all these minions and they're attacking for 1/1, or they're blocking and you're using them as block value, you can still deal 1 damage to your opponent's cards, and that can give you a lot of value over time if they're trying to mid-range you out with these 2 and 3 drops and get rid of your minions, right? It allows you to really do a lot of things with it. Also, trigger defeat, dealing 1 damage to target clash card. You can get rid of maybe a pesky, if you have 3 or 4 minions and they have this bigger clash card that you just can't quite get over the top on, it's a way to whittle it down and then be able to take it out at the end of your turn. So it also says at the end of your turn you may unattach this weapon. And if we remember, War's ability, the new War's ability says whenever once per turn when you unattach a weapon, you may draw a card. So the fact that you can attach this card for 2, use its ability, unattach it into your turn, and then draw a card allows you to keep that card advantage, which is really, really nice. This card can only be attached to the War contender, which makes complete sense. Then we have Gravity Javelin. It's a 1 mana, requires 1 red, so you say I pay 1 red for it. Requires 2 to attach, so 3 total resources. And it says attached contender gets trigger attack. You may unattach this weapon. If you do, choose 2 target clash cards you don't control. They cannot obstruct during this clash and must obstruct the next you declare this turn if able. So basically you're able to swing with your contender unobstructed, which is really really nice. And then you force your opponent to block the little minions. So if you have your contender and then let's say 2 minions and then a big drop that you don't want them to block, you attack with your contender first with this attached, unattach it, then it says they must obstruct the next attack you declare this turn if able. You attack with a minion, they obstruct it because they have to, and then you come in with your big drop and you really can do a lot of damage that way, right? So you basically can force damage into your opponent, and when you're playing a deck like Pestilence, which has a lot of ways to make your attacks lesser, that can be very, very useful, right? So this is really cool. Then we have War Harbinger of Madness. This has Breakthrough, which for anyone who's new to the game is very similar to Trample and other games where extra damage dealt, right, goes to the contender. So if you attack for 5 and your opponent blocks for 3, 2 damage will go to the contender. It says trigger enter. You may send 1 war minion clash token to the Oblivion. If you do, search your deck for a red contender weapon and reveal it. Shuffle your deck, then put that card on top. So it's a tutor in order to go get your weapons faster, which is what you want to do in this deck. And then it also says trigger attack. This card gets +1/+0 for each war minion clash token that was defeated excuse me, or sent to the Oblivion this turn. So if you just use the top ability, this immediately becomes a 4/3 at 5 drop, which is really nice. If you start attacking with minions before this card, this just keeps, right, getting more and more powerful. If you somehow, kill 3 minions before attacking with this card, all of a sudden it's coming in for 6/3, right? So you can really snowball. And again, when you start combining this with cards like Gravity Javelin, like I said, you swing with your contender. Let's say in a perfect world you have like 3 or 4 minions. We'll say 4 minions on the board. You attach this card, you swing with your contender, or you swing with 2 minions, they both die. You swing with your contender, you unattach this, so it can't be obstructed, deal some damage. You swing with your 3rd out of 4th minion, they have to obstruct it. You swing with another minion, so maybe at this point, let's say 3 out of 4 of your minions have died, and then after they've probably taken a decent amount of damage and used up all their obstruct cards, or cards that can obstruct, then you come in with a big War Harbinger of Madness for like 6/3, 7/3, and you just hit your opponent at the end of the turn, which is really, really cool. So I love this card. I'm super excited to play it and, get that magical combo turn maybe where this card's coming in for 7 or 8 damage at the end of a turn when your opponent can't really block. Then we have War Turmoil Tyrant. This is a 3-drop, costs 2 mana, or 2 red mana, 3 total mana to play. It has Observant and says trigger enter. Clash tokens you control get 0+1 until end of turn. So you basically make all your tokens a 1/2, which is pretty good. On a turn where you might want to have a little bit more defensive value and try to keep your board state a little bit more. So just a really solid card. It's on rate for a 3-drop, which is really, really nice in an aggro deck, and being able to make your minions a little bit harder to kill. And when you think about it, if you combine that, went the wrong way there for a second. If you combine that with being able to give your minions like 1/1 with War's second ability when he hits 10 life, then you could really, if you think about it, all of a sudden your minions are 2/3, right, coming in because you get the 1 defense from this and then the 1/1 from War's ability. You can really start to snowball in the mid to late game. So that's really, really cool. And then finally, I have my other spoiler I can show that is not related to the 2 contenders. This is called Fire Mace. So Fire Mace is a 1-drop, costs 1 green to play contender weapon, costs 2 to attach as a green, and says the attached contender gets trigger attack. This card gets 1/0 until the end of turn. So for someone like War, it would make War a 2/0. And it says the attached contender gets trigger victory. All clash cards you control get 1/0 until the end of turn. That's super powerful. This weapon can only be attached to the Kagan contender, so it's a card for Kagan. But this is just awesome. Like, giving all your cards a 1 offensive buff just because your contender won a battle can be really, really useful. And I'm super excited to see. Kagan is such a polarizing figure in the game so far right now. And I'm really excited to have this addition on that contender and be able to, see what it can do. So hopefully you enjoyed this and you like these cards. Definitely go back and check them out. I'll try to leave some information below for the upcoming Genesis Return set. Remember, it comes out November 8th. Preview season's going on right now all the way up until October 3rd. We have pre-releases going on. Players can get early access to the product at the Miami TCG at October 5th and 6th. There's 7 new contenders kind of talking through these stuff, and it's super, super fun. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not me, it's totally fine. Go to another creator, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff so we can get more people seeing this game. And yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank y'all so much. Thank you so much, Ridge and the team, for allowing me to spoil another card. I think I have one more coming in September, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, thank y'all so much. Y'all stay safe, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk.